Hello, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome to our guests. My name is Jenna Anderson, and I've been a Toastmaster for about 2 months now. Today, I'm going to be telling you how I learned to stop worrying and own my body. So, binge eating has been following me around like a clingy frenemy for as long as I can remember. I would regularly eat so much at night that I would wake up the next morning still feeling stuffed. I was stuck in an endless loop of Last Supper style thinking, telling myself that this giant bowl of popcorn, favorite food, this 1/3 of a freaking cake was gonna be the last time that I would do this to myself. The sun would set, the sun would rise, the sun would set again, and I would eat the rest of the cake. I felt out of control. I didn't ever know how things could be any different. Over the past 9 years, I've lost a combined total of over 200 pounds. 75 pounds gained during my first few years of college. Yes, it was far more than the freshman 15 for me. And 70+ pounds gained with each of the pregnancies of my children. And then the countless rounds of dieting, binging that I had in between. Around my 30th birthday, I decided I was done. I didn't want to do this anymore. I did a few things that have been really helpful for me, and in fact, I would say have changed my life. The first was I read a book, an anti-diet book. The next was trying to adjust my media consumption. I wanted to take in images that were something other than the norm that was obviously making me feel so bad about myself. And the third was taking complete and full ownership of my body for really the first time in my life. So this book I read, it's called Secrets from the Eating Lab. It's by Dr. Tracy Mann. It has the tagline, "The Science of Weight Loss, the Myth of Willpower, and Why You Should Never Diet Again." As I was reading this book, I had one of those breakthroughs, this kind where it clicks and then it all makes so much more sense for you. My thin friends are not thin because each and every one of them has more willpower than me. My thin friends are thin because they have different bodies and priorities than me. And what were my priorities? Based on everything that I can surmise from my personal and genetic history, if I wanted to shrink myself down to a size 0, it would have to be the focus of my life. I don't want that to be the focus of my life. I want to make art. I want to go out to dinner with my friends and laugh and eat whatever dish looks the most delicious to me that night. I want to run toward the ocean like this, like flailing, because I'm so gloriously happy to be alive and not spend a single moment thinking about whether I have the right body for a bikini. I realized, and this was so important, this was key, that my weight is not an indication of some egregious moral failing on my part, and that it didn't have to be something that I thought about all the time anymore. Once I gave up on the idea that I was going to be dieting all the time, I needed to adjust my views and ideas about beauty. And one way I did this was viewing an Instagram account called F Your Beauty Standards, and that's EFF Your Beauty Standards. The feed is filled with men and women of varying shapes and sizes who are very clearly conveying just how happy they are with who they are right where they are. There's even a woman with a beard. And when I think about what it must take to be a woman and proudly stand up and say, this is who I am, and this is who I'm going to be, I'm in awe of her self-love and the amount of courage it must take. Once I said goodbye to dieting, which was really hard. I have this closet in my house, I call it the dream closet, and it's filled with all the clothes I'm going to wear when I lose weight. It's my tiny dresses and my little skirts and my crop tops. And I need to throw all those away. It's time for me to be done with the dream closet. There was one last thing I needed to address though. I grew up in a culture that made me feel very ashamed of my body. I was told I needed to cover it up. I needed to be modest. This was a word that was used a lot. Because if a man saw too much of me, he might sin, and I would have a part in that. My personal sexuality as a woman was rarely, if ever, addressed, and when it was generally in relation to how I could help men control their sexuality. I felt like there were all of these walls around me. There were walls to keep me hidden, walls to keep me contained. And as a 30-year-old mother of two, I've taken complete ownership of my body. I decide how to dress. Today I wanted to wear something that made me feel really powerful, and made me feel really out there. I decide what color my hair is. I went purple this week, and I really love it. I decide what sexuality means for me and how I engage with others. And each time I scale one of those walls, I am granted a new sense of confidence and clarity. It's confidence and clarity that spreads out throughout my life. I think it's made a really big difference in how I feel standing up here in front of you today. And I don't think that I've found some panacea that's going to fix everything. I have no doubt that over time, I'm going to have regressions. I'm going to be tempted to diet again. I'm going to see a friend who's dropped a lot of weight. I'm going to start thinking that maybe I want to join in. I'm going to start feeling bad about myself again. I'm going to feel like maybe I should drop another 20 pounds before I can go to the beach, wear my swimsuit or my bikini. But there's one thing that I will hold on to so tightly, that is so dear to me. I define who I am, and I define what makes me good. It is a task far too enormous to leave to others. Thank you.